Hello. It's been a while and a lot has happened, both in the world and for me since the last time I talked about how I made my graphic novel. And I have a lot more to share this time because I have a book now. It's real. Oh my goodness. I've sold some of my books as well, and I can talk about that. But generally, I just want to talk about how I made this particular thing happen because it hadn't happened in my previous video. And that required a few things. It required going through the printing process. It required figuring out how I was going to fund the printing process, making a web presence, and just a lot of things. We can start anywhere, but I think let's start with first things first, which is make sure that you finish your book. Working outside of my normal day job, this took me 2 years to complete just the art and the story writing side of it. And I'm sure people who are more skilled than it may take less time, but that gives you a realistic idea of just how much work I had to prepare myself to do in order to get as far as I had in my previous video. I'll link part 1 down below somewhere. If YouTube's smart, it should recommend it in its algorithm. But yeah, that's where you'll find that. The next thing is to think about how you're hoping to make money. For me, I started with the digital copy of my book first. So that means that I released a digital PDF of my book first on Gumroad, which was just the easiest platform for me to start with, and it gave me pretty much immediate capital. I did an announcement to family and friends to let them know that I had worked on and completed this project and would love for them to support a first print by buying my book digitally. And I gave a bunch of the people who did that at first a deal on the print when it eventually came out a few months later. That process was excellent because no longer was that book just my project. It was, really getting some scrutiny and some eyes on it. And so, the second you hit publish and go, that's kind of when you start noticing the little things that you didn't before, little typos, little things here and there. So it's a great kind of proving ground for the work that I wanted to release in a kind of more permanent physical way later on. And so once I released that digital copy, I had a little bit of money in the bank. I really wanted to use that money wisely. And so I shopped around at a few different printing options. And in my previous video, I talked about offset printing and digital printing. For what I needed to do, which was a real small first print run, full color, digital printing was just the cheapest option for me. Printing something like 50 copies at once is a lot easier to stomach than being forced to commit to 1,000 or 500 books. And God knows where I'm gonna put them in this place. So that was a huge consideration for me, but it gave me a good instinct for where I wanted to go first. So when I went to go look for quotes from folks, another thing besides the cost that I was considering is just the eventual paper itself and what the kind of finish of the book that I wanted to make was going to have. And in my case, because my book is not the longest or the shortest, I knew I wanted something a little bit higher quality, something with a little heft to it. And a big thing that I got from that process is 2 very basic kind of levers you can pull when it comes to the quality of your print. One is the thickness of the paper. Do you want like a 70-pound paper that's a bit floppy and maybe a little see-through when you hold it up to the light? Do you want something really, really thick that is going to be like essentially art paper for you to display your work on, which of course comes at a little bit of a premium. And then also in the end, how do you want the final finish of that paper to look? And so I ordered print samples, and you can see that these are from Mixam that show the 3 kind of general finishes that you can get from some of these print houses. And from fully, totally matte, this feels kind of like sketchbook paper, to high gloss, which is on the very opposite end of the spectrum. It feels like a magazine, great for photographic treatments. And this kind of in-between kind of silk semi-matte texture. And as you can see, the same color renders completely differently on these 3 finishes. The thing that you learn when you're going from drawing in a digital medium to printing is that the saturation that you expect from your super bright backlit drawing tablets or computer software is not at all what you're gonna get in real life. Having that to kind of level set my expectations around quality and final product really helped me in the end with kind of the fine-tuned adjustments when I went to go print. And yeah, so this is the book that I ended up going with. It's 100-pound paper on the outside, which just feels like cardstock. When I'm gonna hold this up to my mic so you can kind of hear the pages. The pages are really thick, but it also means that they're not see-through. If you hold some of these pages up to the light, you're not really going to see the interference of the art on the front and back side. I'm so happy with how this came out, but I will say that if you insist on something like this, you end up paying a little bit more. And the per unit cost of my book is a little higher because of this. You can pull those levers, like if you have a different budget and your book is maybe black and white, you can pull a few different levers to make that price a little cheaper and more workable for you. But for what I wanted and why I'm even self-publishing period is because I wanted control over the quality of the final product. Proofs are so important, and it doesn't matter how many times you've read over your book. Like I said, I had a digital only run where lots and lots of my friends read through their copy of it. And there were things that we did not catch until they went to the printer. You will do things wrong and you'll screw up in ways that you did not know that you could screw up. For example, this is the title of my book, Do Not Resuscitate. And this is the title of my book in the proof. And it wasn't until it was a physical object that, the many people who looked this over, and myself for months, no one noticed until I got this book in my hands, that the title was spelled wrong. And believe me, I have so much more appreciation or understanding and compassion towards folks who misspell their tattoos, because even though this is my baby, things went wrong. And I thought, I was gonna nail it. There wasn't gonna be too much confusion in the proofing process, but you will catch things that either the printer messed up or what you messed up. And in this example, you can see that I kind of misaligned my page in InDesign and cropped out a good chunk of artwork, which is heartbreaking. If that's something that you've worked on, you don't want to screw up in this way. So take it from me, take it from this particular example. Proofs are so important. Sit with it a while. Don't feel rushed through the process. If there's no real reason to rush yourself through the process, take your time with your proof and pick out everything. And it also feels emotionally really good after all of that work that you put in to have your book in your hands and get to appreciate it. So why skip that step, honestly? For me, the solution that I went with was I host my site on DreamHost for about $5 a month, and I upload my own web files that I custom code very, very simply. And I can just embed PayPal buttons, Gumroad buttons, YouTube videos, using code that they give me that I can just insert into my pages. And that level of control is good for me, but it's also the level of cost, because I don't want it to be something that costs me a lot in the long run for what I have, which is a very small self-published project. But the thing that you have to be really cognizant of, especially if you care about how much money you get back from this, is the fees. So Gumroad charges something like 8.5% of your total sale plus a 30-cent fee for every transaction. PayPal charges 2.9% per transaction, huge difference, in 30-cent fee. So I ended up going with PayPal just because it was a little bit more competitive. But folks, you'll go with what seems easiest to you, and that might be paying a little bit more per month to kind of get the full service e-commerce end of things handled, but you may find that you're taking home or pocketing a lot less per sale if you do it that way. So all of that is a lot in the weeds, and I can make specific videos about particular topics if folks are interested in that. I just wanted to follow up from where I was last time before I had this physical book to show you. If anyone's watching this who's read it and has enjoyed it, thank you so much for your wonderful feedback. This is a weird little book about a woman and her zombie. To hear that it has touched people in a personal and deeply emotional way has made, the last 2+ years of all of this work really worth it. I made this journey for myself, but being able to share it now with other people has been what makes it the most worthwhile to me. Thank you so much for your support and your time, and please take care and stay safe.